Hey Zook family, it's Monday afternoon, and that means we're chatting to another regional hero. This one's an exciting one for me because this guy is not just a pioneer of KL nightlife, long superseding me in this country, but he's also the person I would attribute to being the spearhead of bringing techno to this city, something that I'm a huge passion of, something that he's leaps and bounds ahead of us with. Sanjeev, how have you been, my friend?
I'm good, mate. Thank you for having me on this recording. It's nice to meet. So I haven't seen you in a while. I think the last time I saw you was just before the lockdown.
Yeah, it's a shame we were going to do Wired Music Week together, but sadly the lockdown literally killed that off. But it'll be back next year, so we're excited.
Yeah.
So let me go through a few different topics with you, Sanjeev. It's really important for me to have a guest of your caliber on because we can talk about the industry as a whole and not just music.
Mhm.
You are the entertainment manager for Kyo downtown, hugely successful club, hugely successful for two brands of music that we don't necessarily showcase as often, but
Mhm.
hip hop and techno. How did you get into that scene, and is it that inspired you to really drive the techno scene in Kuala Lumpur?
Okay. Phew, where do I begin? I started DJing, I think about 7 years ago. I was always like a house. I was mainly a house and disco DJ, and then I got into tech and techno and stuff. So I used to play quite regularly around KL, Pisco Bar. I think I even had a small residency in Zoo KL, and at Apex Lounge. Elysium, and so I just moved around. I played a lot, and then I kind of left my corporate life. I think I joined our very good friend Adam Matthews when he was going to do events. I was hired as the project manager for events. I think so. My first introduction to Kyo was Kyo Singapore. Sorry, was we were doing a festival together. So it was a Malaysian company, Kyo Singapore, and the guys from UK. I think the guys who did Global Gathering and stuff. Paul Hugo, who runs Omnia now. So we put on this two-day festival. I think about 6,000 people weekender, and yeah, it was a huge success. It was fun. So that's how my relationship with the Kyo Singapore team started. And then Kyo Singapore was slowly starting to run its course. I think the economy wasn't doing so well in Singapore. So they brought up the idea about opening up in KL. So I was involved with them from the start, like looking for venues. And then we found Mandarin Oriental, took over those space, and well, say the rest is history.
And it's been going very, very well. And one thing that I know very, very well is that you have a hugely popular hip hop night there. And as I said, you've been bringing in
Yeah.
some of the names that we haven't seen in this country ever, or if not for a long time. How did you
Mhm.
choose the musical direction for Kia?
Okay, so when we opened Kyo, I think it was kind of like the peak. We opened at about late 2018, so it was kind of peak EDM. Everyone was doing EDM, so we didn't really want to open another club that was doing EDM. And it was quite a saturated market. But we kind of did our study, and we saw like hip hop was coming back in a very, very strong way. So we decided to focus on hip hop. But if you actually know the history of Kyo Singapore, it was always an underground club. They only did hip hop on Thursday, but Fridays, Saturdays, and every other day was just either house or techno. So the big boss, Godwin, who's still very much involved in KL, he understood the need to do hip hop, but he did not want to lose the essence of Kyo. So we pushed underground really hard. So I think when we first opened, Fridays was a house, and then we had two rooms. So Fridays was house downstairs, hip hop was upstairs, and then we'll swap it over. But we kind of made the main room a little bit too big, so it was really hard to fill up. I mean, like even having 300 people for an underground night was not enough. The venue looked quite empty. So we slowly, it was a lot of trial and error and stuff, and then eventually we found a formula that worked. And we do occasional, we do the underground on Ren, and just hip hop Wednesday till Sunday. And I think the one that really took us to the next level was when we had booked Seth Troxler. He was supposed to play in Ren, and then he came down on the Wednesday night hip hop night. He saw the space. He's like, dude, I really got to play here. And I was like, mate, it's too big. I didn't want him to feel uncomfortable playing like in a small room. And then he gave this great idea. We put some curtains, we cut the room in half and stuff. He loved the venue so much. He put up on his Instagram. Till today, it's still there. It's like his best sound system in the world. And yeah, and then from there, we started doing big Thursday shows. We picked the right artists. So we had from there, went on to have like Sasha, Black Coffee, Charlotte DeWitt. And And surprisingly enough, we had really, really good turnouts for Thursday night. And so that's how we sort of became known for like this Thursday night party for underground. We couldn't do it every week, but it'd be like at least once a month we bring a nice big name.
So I was actually at Seth Troxler. It was an awesome night.
Oh, nice.
And I was also at Charlotte DeWitt. Sanjeev saying that it's too big a room, 300 baht. These were packed. I cannot tell people. But you've also, I mean, these kind of artists are great artists. Black Coffee, that's inspired. That's the kind of artist that never would have been brought to KL before. So I got to take my hat off to you. You also brought someone that I started my career in 2007. One of the first bookings that I was ever involved in, DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Yes. Gino, I've been trying to book him for 3 years. If you ever we're quite one of the biggest hip hop clubs in the country. So to me, I'm a bit old school, right? But if you talk about till today, if you talk about all right, who is the top hip hop DJs? Everybody always says Jazzy Jeff. So I was like, we have to have Jazz. I said, I don't care how much it costs. He has to play in our club at least once, right? And but I would always lose out to my very good friend Casey. Shout out to Casey. He would always book him before me. So and then he kind of scaled down and he was doing Saro and stuff. So I was like, right, this year I'm gonna get Jazzy Jeff. And yeah, it was I think it was the last big show I did before the lockdown. Sorry, that was Panport, but yeah, it was the last 2 big shows I did just before the lockdown. It was a great turnout. He put on a great show, and I'd gladly have him every year.
So true story, my friend. When we were talking about Jazzy Jeff as well, and then when I found out he was looking at your side, we backed away. We knew that you would get the bigger pull out of us. Great booking. And
thank you, because you could outpay me for sure.
No, it's not about that. I think it's the realization that you guys really did it justice. He is a godfather of hip hop DJing. His scratching, everything is like top gear. So how have you found? Because I went to Charlotte DeWitt, as I said, that was literally sardines. You could not move inside that place, and there was a huge relief that you're bringing those kind of acts to KL. There's a bit of a gamble, I would have thought, with that, but now you look at what you've started and what Circo Loco continued with. When you look at the acts that they brought in, so what persuaded you to move into that field?
Okay, so I knew Charlotte DeWitt was going to be a huge hit, right? Because I've been watching her, and she was headlining. I think there was one year she kind of closed or headline Tomorrowland, right? So I saw a lot of these EDM kids going really crazy for her. So I could see the slow transition from EDM to that style of techno. And I thought, like, okay, this is the time to bring her. So when I got the offer, I said, like, we have to bring her. But even I was blown away by the turnout. I think I had to turn 200 people away on that night, So, and I'll tell you a funny story. So the week after, I had Black Coffee, right? And I knew Black Coffee was big, but I didn't realize how big he was, like that big. So after Charlotte DeWitt, I actually said in my ops meeting, right? I was like, all right, guys, this is a one-off. Never going to happen again, If it happens again, or we have more capacity than Charlotte DeWitt, I'm going to streak down the street naked, right? And sure enough, Black Coffee had way more people than Charlotte DeWitt. But yeah, I never kept my word, so there was no streaking. And then my good friend Joseph. So he Joseph from JK58. So he had Circo Loco originally in Hong Kong. So the KL Circo Loco was supposed to happen in Hong Kong. But what happened was, I think they were having the riots and the protests. So they were going to cancel it. So the owner of Circo Loco was like, come on, guys, don't cancel. Let's find a solution because the dates are booked. So he called me first. We had a good chat. I'd be perfectly honest with you. I wasn't even that much confident, because it had been, 20 years? I think more than 20 years till the country had an event of that size for underground. But credit to Joseph, he's man, that guy is such a positive guy. He was like, no, we can do this. So yeah, I jumped in, I got the whole KO team on board, and we put that show on in 2 months and it was a sellout. So it was it's kind of heartbreaking because all the signs were pointing toward the right direction for this year. Like after Circo Loco, Charlotte DeWitt, Black Coffee, I was like, you could see like the tide is changing and it's going to be a big year for techno and house. And, then damn virus came in. And so it was like, we had to restart all over again.
So funny story. We had Ben Nicky 2 weeks before Circo Loco, and then Ben Nicky got sick, so postponed. and he postponed to the day of Soca Loca. And I remember my heart sinking because even though Ben was a sellout, and to be honest, it was great fun to have and book, and he did an amazing job. I was desperate to go to Soca Loca. I went with the Zoom team and saw Dixon in Ibiza this summer. When I saw that you were bringing Dixon to Kuala Lumpur, I thought this is too good to be true. Unfortunately for me, it was too good to be true. So
it's a shame, man. He blew everybody away. Like everybody came for Peggy Goo, but everyone left talking about Dixon. So it was amazing.
I think we've got to commend you on what you've done. You've opened that door for us now, and now we can look at people like Amelie Lons. We can look at people like Solomon. And I mean, the only downside is the budgets that these guys are getting now. It's silly.
It's ridiculous. Sometimes how much they charge. I have a hard time with agents, right? Because I was like, look, mate, they were like, oh, but South America is paying this much. I was like, okay, you can rinse your artists out in South America 4 times a year, but the biggest continent in the world, so take a pay cut. But don't lose out on your fans, you know? So people like Seth and Black Coffee last year, not this year. You charge way too much this year. But they understood it. So I was like, with Sasha and all, I was like, drop your fee a little bit, but you've got the biggest fan base in the world here, you know, so don't lose out on that for just money, you know. Some people listen, some people don't. But I think probably one of the good hindsight on the virus is that they're all going to have to drop their price next year because nobody's going to pay those fees again.
Yeah, I think you touched on an interesting point, and it's not always the case, but often the case you've got agents who are artificially propping these up, and I think sometimes the artists don't know themselves that there's going to be ill fallout, but let's not sully it. I want to move on to a bigger booking, the biggest booking of all, your own DJ career. So tell me about that.
And my DJ career, no, I'm nobody. I love playing, man. I think it's like my biggest de-stress. Doesn't matter if there's 1,000 people, 100 people, or 2 people, right? I just want to get behind the decks. Nothing makes me happier. I always wanted to be a DJ since I was a kid. My parents were dead set against it. I think, you know, very old school fashion. Then when I came back from Australia, I was like, all right, I'm earning my own salary. I'm going to go for classes. My first introduction to was the indie scene, right? The Indian new disco scene. And they saw me in the DJ school and they're like, let's come and play, you know. And then from there, I just went on and on. Then eventually started playing what I liked. I gotta commend my really good friends and like the pioneers, right? People like Victor G, Alam, Orum. These guys like opened the doors for me. Like they started booking me, and then from there it just went on. My family at Livescape, they booked to play the ship 3 times, and just rolled on from there. Good vibes in Malaysia, and I started playing regionally quite regularly. I've been to Bangkok, Bali, Omnia. Few places, many places in Singapore. Went all the way up to China, Hong Kong, then back down again. So yeah, I've been very, very blessed. I've had a very short, I'd say, 7 years is technically kind of short compared to a lot of people who've been playing, but I've been very blessed and very grateful for the opportunities I've had. And yeah, I just love to play.
I mean, as long as you enjoy it, as long as it brings joy to other people, that's what it's all about, right? At the end of the day, we talk about agents asking for huge fees, etc. But it's I dusted off 10 years. I haven't stood behind, and I did a mix with DJ Joshan here, and we did it, and all my friends tuned in, and most of them took the piss out of me. But it was great to see everyone forget that there's a virus for like an hour, you know, because it becomes very negative to just hear people talk about doom and gloom repeatedly, but it's great. So Sanjeev, it's been a real pleasure to speak to you. I really appreciate the time, and I love talking shop and also having fun at the same time. But before we let you go, what do we have for the rest of 2020 from yourself, and maybe 2021? What moves can we see you making?
So we're going to keep it lean. We're not going to do any international bookings. It's just more of a cost factor, because we haven't been running for a few months. But at the same time, it's really good because we're going to go back to basics and we just keep it local. Support your local scene, because we're the guys who built it, you know, long before Black Coffee and Charlotte came. We're just going to push. I'm confident people will still come out. Everyone's hungry to let loose and party again. So there's no need for us to actually do any international bookings till next year.
I totally agree with you. I think we've been showcasing like 20 to 30 local residents on Zoot Digital because it's just as important as showcasing the trance heroes. These are the guys that build the industry. This is what it is because of the locals. It's not people like me. It's not people like Ferry Corsten. It's basically Malaysia's finest that have been making this industry what it is. So I totally agree with you. I totally respect that. And 2021, I would love to get a few more internationals back in here and prop up the events industry with something exciting so that tourists can come check out Malaysia, especially because I feel that it adds a new dimension with the bookings you're making, the bookings we're making. But Sanjeev, it's always a pleasure. I can't wait to come and have a drink with you after all of this. And thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
No worries, dude. And we'll speak soon.
See you soon. Take care, man. Bye.